Welcome back to Artificial Evidence, where the smallest details lead to the biggest revelations. I am your host, Owen Carver, and today we are heading deep into the Nevada desert. To a stretch of US Route 50 so desolate and empty that locals call it the loneliest road in America. But those who work it, who drive it day after day, call one particular section something else. They call it the Red Mile. For nearly 2 decades, an unusual number of bodies have turned up along this 50-mile stretch between Ely and Eureka. Most of them transient, hitchhikers, runaways, the type of people who disappear without making the news. But not all of them. In 2013, a case shook the Nevada Highway Patrol to its core when 2 men were found dead on the Red Mile, within hours of each other. No visible wounds, no apparent cause of death. The investigation that followed uncovered something far more terrifying than a random act of violence. Because if what investigators suspect is true, then the Red Mile may be home to one of the most methodical and untraceable serial killers in American history. This is the Red Mile. On June 12, 2013, at 2:45 in the morning, Nevada Highway Patrol Officer Daniel Mercer received a call about an abandoned vehicle near mile marker 72. The car, a black Nissan Maxima, sat just off the shoulder with its hazard lights blinking. The driver's side door was open. The engine was off. No one was inside. Mercer called in a tow truck, then scanned the area with his flashlight. That was when he saw the body, about 20 feet away from the road. It was a man in his late 30s, wearing jeans and a grey t-shirt, face down in the dirt, arms at his sides. There was no blood, no signs of struggle. Mercer's radio crackled to life before he could even process what he was looking at. Another officer, 15 miles up the highway, had just found another body. Same position, same lack of injuries. Something was happening on the Red Mile. The first victim was identified quickly. His wallet, found inside the Nissan, belonged to Victor Dahl, a software consultant from Sacramento. He had been on a work trip in Salt Lake City and was expected to return home that evening. His wife, when contacted, was distraught. Victor had called her at 8 p.m. from a gas station outside Ely. He said he was getting back on the road. She had assumed he would be home by 1 a.m. But instead, he ended up dead in the Nevada desert, under circumstances no one could explain. The second victim was harder to identify. He carried no wallet, no phone, no ID of any kind. The only clue was a motel key in his pocket, from a rundown roadside inn called the Desert Lantern. Officers drove to the motel, where the night manager confirmed that the man had checked in the night before. He had paid in cash and used a fake name. The manager remembered him because he had seemed nervous, jumpy, as if he was afraid of something. The autopsies did not provide many answers. No drugs in their systems. No signs of dehydration, exposure, or trauma. Both men had simply died. The lack of evidence frustrated investigators, but then a semi-truck dashcam provided a critical clue. The footage, time-stamped at 2:30 a.m., showed a man walking along the side of the highway. His movements were slow, almost unsteady, as if he were injured or disoriented. That man was Victor Dahl. The truck driver who submitted the footage had not thought much of it at the time. He had seen people walking along the highway before, usually stranded drivers trying to get help. But there was something off about this one. Dahl had been walking with his head tilted slightly downward. His hands were clenched into fists. His posture was stiff. Then, without breaking stride, he turned off the highway and disappeared into the desert. With this new information, investigators began reconstructing the night's events. Victor Dahl had left Salt Lake City around 5 p.m., stopping at a gas station in Ely at 8. At 10:45, he was seen on surveillance at a diner, sitting alone in a booth by the window. And then, at some point in the next 4 hours, he ended up dead on the Red Mile. Detectives began looking for connections between Dahl and the second victim, but they found none. Then came the break in the case. A patrol officer, reviewing archived reports, noticed something alarming. Over the past 15 years, at least 21 other bodies had been discovered along the same 50-mile stretch of US Route 50. The circumstances varied. Some were found in vehicles, some on the roadside, but there were undeniable similarities. Many of them had no obvious cause of death. Most had no connection to the area. And nearly all of them had been traveling alone. It was a pattern that no one had noticed before. Months passed with no new leads. The case, without further evidence, went cold. But then, in March of the following year, another body was found. Same stretch of highway. Same absence of cause. This time, the victim was a young woman, a college student from Reno, heading home for spring break. Her car was found with the driver's door open, the engine still running. Dashcam footage from a passing truck showed her walking along the road minutes before she died, just like Victor Dahl. By now, the investigators had a theory. Someone was picking off travelers on the Red Mile. A serial killer, using a method so subtle and untraceable that even forensic experts could not detect it. Theories ranged from poison to suffocation to some kind of undetectable chemical. But to this day, no one knows how these people were killed. And the killer, whoever they are, has never been caught. Thank you for listening to Artificial Evidence. If you have theories or insights, reach out on social media. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review. And remember, the algorithm knows.